Hi, this is Frank Marino of Mahogany Rush. Listen to Interviewing the Legends with Ray Shasho on BBS Radio.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency, devoted to promoting musicians and authors worldwide. Call us today at 941-877-1552 to start your free publicity evaluation. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. Please welcome the host of Interviewing the Legends, music journalist, author, and entrepreneur, Ray Shasho.
Hello once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends on BBS Radio TV. Brought to you by the Rockstar Chronicles Series 1, my new book featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know. Available now at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Frank Marino is an invigorating virtuoso champion guitar slinger who is also considered to be amongst the greatest players of all time. The Montreal native and his assiduous band, Mahogany Rush, were one of the elite monster rock acts through the 1970s. The band performed on several prestigious television music shows, including Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, Burt Sugarman's The Midnight Special, hosted by the notorious Wolfman Jack. Mahogany Rush also played for more than 300,000 people at California Jam 2 in 1978. A televised concert featured Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, Santana, Dave Mason, Foreigner, Hart, Bob Welch with Stevie Nicks and Mick, Fleetwood, Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush, and Rubicon. Mahogany Rush was managed by the same duo who also handled Aerosmith and Ted Nugent. Some of the band's most significant releases include Maxim, Child of the Novelty, Strange Universe, Mahogany Rush 4, World Anthem, Live Tales of the Unexpected, What's Next, From the Hip, Dragonfly, The Best of Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush, Eye of the Storm, and A Real Live, a double live album. Frank's latest venture is an epic 6-hour live performance, now available and presented in an elegant box set, which includes both the Blu-ray and DVD formats in each box. The DVD is entitled Frank Marino Live at the Agora Theater, available now on Blu-ray, disc, and DVD. You can purchase that now at www.mahoganyrush.com. Please welcome monster guitarist, leader of Canadian hard rock band Mahogany Rush, often compared to Jimi Hendrix and described as one of the most underrated guitarists of the 1970s, Frank Marino, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Frank.
Hey, how you doing, Ray?
We're doing good, man. I got a feeling during the lockdown you've been tinkering in electronics and doing preamps and things like that. Is that true?
Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing, is just, making new pedals and fixing up my amps and, doing stuff like that. I'm actually designing a whole bunch of new ones that I'm really thinking seriously of putting out for people to have, so we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, I think that'll be great. Frank Marino signature, like preamp or amp or...
Well, there's a preamp, there's an amp, there's
right.
all kinds of, there's distortion pedals, there's, chorus pedals, there's all kinds of stuff that I use. Everything I use, I do myself, so, that's what it would be.
How'd you learn to do that? I took a electronics course because, I studied broadcasting way back when, and I had to get my first, second, and third FCC license. So, I did a little bit of electronics, but it was all on paper. I knew theory. I never did the actual work. How did you learn how to do that?
Well, I learned, I'm self-taught just like you. I started reading, because when I started doing it, you could have, and then I would try to reverse engineer them to figure out, what it was about them that I liked or didn't like, and then I would, change parts and not know what I was doing. But I would also learn a little bit about the way it worked, and once I did understand the way it worked, I'd then understand why when I changed a certain part did it sound worse or better. Once I learned how to convert them all to drawings that you could read. And it just over time, I made a lot of mistakes. Sometimes the mistakes were beneficial. They made it sound better. You didn't know why. You wanted to make sure you used that amp that way just in case you didn't get your sound back. But eventually, I didn't want to be worrying all the time about, why something is good or bad. So I wanted to know, and I just kept learning as much as I could. Really talking to other people that did it, reading all the literature that was available on electronics, and I just became really proficient at it. And it's like anything else, you have to love it or you won't be good at it.
Right.
It's the same as anything. Like, everybody would like to play guitar. Not everybody wants to play guitar. And the difference between saying you would like to do something and you want to do something is that when you want to do something, that's what you do. You wake up doing it and you go to bed doing it. But when you would like to, I would like to go to Italy, or I would like to, but you don't necessarily go. And that's sort of how it was with electronics. It was the same as it was with guitar, the same as it was with when I was into racing cars. You want to do that thing and you end up making time to do it. And I joke with somebody about how if ever somebody's hiring someone for a job and two people show up and one has a really thick resume and one has a really thin resume, you naturally seem to go for the guy that has the more experience. But what you don't realize is that the guy that has the more experience is a screw-up, because every bit of experience comes from a mistake.
True.
So all of his experience is basically a history of all the mistakes the guy made.
Yeah.
So you're hiring a guy that made a hell of a lot of mistakes and saying that it's better than the other one. So I just, this is a little joke I make sometimes.
I agree with you 100%. But, electronics, though, you can hurt yourself.
Well, you can with the tube amplifiers.
Yeah.
But, I don't really use a lot of tube amplifiers, although I do build them. But you can't really hurt yourself much with solid-state devices, and especially not with pedals, because they're running on 9-volt batteries.
Right, that's true, yeah.
But everybody's been bitten. I got bitten. I got bitten with 800 volts.
Wow. Wow.
Everybody's had the bite.
Yeah.
But you learn to respect it and be careful with it. The end result is you have a sound that is pretty unique. Like, not anybody can just go to a store and buy the gear I have and sound like my amp.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to sort of see if I could put it out for the public.
Yeah.
I like the idea of sharing these ideas.
Sure.
Most people in our business, they keep secrets. They got a secret pedal, or they got a secret way of doing their strings, or it's part of their secrets, and they don't want to give them up. But I don't think that way. I think that these kind of things should be given to younger people to take it to the next level where we could not take it to.
Well, you got a huge fan base. You got so many devoted fans. Even when you weren't doing music for a while, they all stuck with you, man. And there's a lot of guitarists out there that would love to sound like Frank Marino. So that's a great thing what you're doing.
It's funny, Ray, when you break it down. When I actually sit, you have time like we just had to sit down and analyze everything. You realize that over the years, I've gotten way more simple in terms of what I build, in terms of how I play. The better it sounds and the better you play, you find in the final analysis that you've become more direct and more simple. I'm actually using less effects.
Yep.
I'm playing slower. I'm not always at 1 billion miles an hour.
Yeah.
As you get older and you get more, as I talked about, experience, you realize that it starts to be better when you become a little simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could go back in a time machine to to when this all started, I'd probably go back with the knowledge I have now and go on a much simpler path than I had gone on.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, man, you're an incredible guitar player. I want to first say congratulations on the DVD. You worked so hard on that, many years. You got the shoulder problems from it. You went through hell with it, but the product came out, exquisite. It's a beautiful video, 6 hours of it, and I guess you kind of cut it down because it could have been a lot longer, right?
Yeah, there's almost 12 hours.
Jeez, wow!
But it had to be down to the 6 hours, and I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out really good. I know it took a long time to do it, probably a lot longer than I should have. But at the end is that it really is something that, to me, I don't really like my albums. Once I finish them, I don't ever hear them again.
Yeah.
But with this DVD, I'm actually happy to see it when I see it. I actually think it's good, and it's funny because they had to drag me kicking and screaming to do a DVD because I didn't believe in them.
Right.
So funny how things turn out. Everything's always backwards.
And it's selling more than you kind of thought, I guess, right? I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't even get involved in that at this point. It's like, I turned it over and just said, to the family, look, I owe you 10 years of credit, and I've got to pay it back. Nothing's free. So it's not like I'm making tons of money off it. Believe me, I'm not. My life is no different.
Right.
But you know what? You get, you have to pay back what you spent. So, it took me long enough to do it, and now I got to pay the bill.
Now, didn't you give up a lot of your royalties a long time ago, and kind of?
Yeah, that was a big mistake.
Yeah,
like when I was young.
Right.
And so one of the problems with this particular DVD performance is that the law says that if you cover a tune on a record, you don't really need permission if the tune has been publicly released before. What you need to do is you need to remit a certain amount of cents per record to whoever the original song person was,
Okay. Right.
That's the law. But in video, there is no law.
Oh, good.
There's no statute.
Good.
And so when you marry music to picture, there's a thing called sync rights. And so when you want to put a piece of music to any kind of moving picture or even a photograph that's on a video format, you have to get the rights from the original holder, and they can charge whatever they like. There's no standard rate.
Yeah.
So they could tell you, no, you can't do it, or they could tell you, yeah, you can do it, and we want $1 million.
Right. Right.
Because there's no real law that says, okay, you only owe so many pennies, like there is with music. So the problem really came when I went to include a lot of the songs on this DVD. It's 57 songs, and many of them are from my earlier albums. And those earlier albums were albums that I had foolishly signed away my rights to my songs. And so I had to go get permission.
Really?
To use my own songs. And the only other alternative was don't include the songs. Now I can't, there's so many Mahogany Rush tunes that people know. If they weren't on this DVD, what would be the point? So I had to ask permission and get permission. That took time, and I have to pay for it. And then I do some Hendrix material. I have to ask permission for that, and I have to pay for it. And I do a couple of other tunes, Crossroads, and She's Not There by the Zombies.
Right.
And so I had to get permission for those things, too. So it took time. Even once I had finished the actual work on the product, I kept, going back to the people who owned the songs, and they'd say, well, no, and then they say, well, yes, and then, finally we made a deal that everyone was comfortable with, And I included the stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did wait, because it would have been awful if I'd have put up the DVD just to save some time, but not include those songs. So I'm glad we did that. And I'm just telling a lot of kids today, they're much wiser than we were in the early 70s.
Right.
They don't give away their rights as easily today as we did.
Yeah.
Nowadays I've noticed that the labels and the record labels that are signing bands, they're not even asking for those publishing rights. They're asking for their merchandise. And I would caution these young people in groups to not give that away, because believe me, 10 years from now you're going to wish you didn't.
One of my favorite songs that you do is Land of a Thousand Nights. I didn't know that wasn't on the DVD, correct?
No, it should have been. It was on the list.
Right.
To be done that day. Don't forget, this was done all in one day.
Right. Oh,
well, one night before, there was a 7-hour sound check with the crowd.
Oh, my gosh.
That's not included on this. And then the next day was a 12-hour recording day. All the stuff was done in one day. And Land of a Thousand Nights was on the list to be done. But some of the jams went on so long on some of these tracks that we just never had enough time to do it.
Yeah.
We took 2 short breaks in the day, and I hadn't slept the night before, so during those breaks I was really kind of buzzed, like I just had to rest a little bit, because I hadn't slept in 24 hours.
Jeez.
So, we didn't get back early enough to include a couple of the tunes that were supposed to be there, and one of them was Land of a Thousand Nights, another one was Tales of the Spanish Warrior. They were all slated to be done, but we just ran out of time. We ran out of racetrack. So, they didn't get done.
Well, you got 6 hours of the best renditions of the songs, anybody will ever hear. High def, excellent sound quality. It's an amazing set. It really is. And there's also a booklet or something in there as well, right?
Yeah, it's an actual book.
Right.
A guy wrote half the book, and I wrote the second half of the book. So the first half of the book is written by Ryan Sparks, and it's like the historical story of me. I've told from a journalist perspective, in the third person and whatever. And then the second half of the book, the second 90 pages or 100 pages, is my story, me talking about the making of this and the years that led up to it, and what we went through, doing it, and why it happened. It's a personal sort of approach. So it's nice, and there's a lot of really cool pictures. I don't know how they found so many pictures that I had forgotten existed, but there's some pretty cool pictures.
Well, I think you mentioned that you like the way Martin Scorsese did the Last Waltz with the band, and that you were trying to get that kind of...
Yeah, I had said to the director, Chris Hilson was the director that did this, and he came from England, and he had been a big fan of the band, because this guy, Ray Daniels, made him Ray Daniels, see, I'm mixing up names with musicians. Daniel, who was the guy that produced the whole thing, he brought Chris, and he brought the lighting director, Cosmo Wilson, which did a lot of work for AC/DC.
Right.
And basically I said to him, look, one of the things, the pet peeves I have with DVDs is I find that when bands do them, they often focus too much on crowd shots and cheering and moving the camera every 10 seconds and 10 minutes, every 2 minutes. It's like move, zoom, move.
Yeah.
I really don't like that.
Yep.
So I said, Martin Scorsese had done a really great film for the band, for Robbie Robertson and the band, called The Last Waltz.
Right.
And if you've seen The Last Waltz, it really, really is mostly like you're on the stage with the band. There's very, very little fanfare shots. And it's just about the music, and you're sort of really close up with the group as if you're there. So I said to Chris, could you just keep it as much as possible to that? Try not to do too many fancy moves. And he did a great job, but when I got home, I was fixing the problem, the electronics problem with the drums, but
Right.
I also noticed that, some of the shots, because we jam, I suddenly start singing or whatever. He couldn't really know that. So I took his cuts and basically laid them all out again and moved some of the borders, so that they were a little bit more timed with the music. Mm-hmm. So now it works pretty well. So I sort of reproduced what he produced live in the shot, and the result is a piece that you can watch and doesn't tend to make you feel like you want to look away, which I get when there's too much movement on a camera.
You want a Frank Marino live experience, and you play better live. I mean, your studio work is incredible too, but you want to see Frank Marino live, man. That's what it's all about.
The reason that happens, I've analyzed that. I know that was true. I never really understood myself why that was, that everyone liked the live more. I found out why. I figured out why, and it's because, look, when we do a record, the inspiration for the track all comes at the one time you do it. Like, okay, here's the track, here's what it's going to be. Then it gets recorded.
Right.
When you're playing live, the inspiration is being created as you go.
Sure.
At least in my band, anyway.
Sure.
So you're really on a constant. You're constantly inventing every solo, every jam session, every stop, everything. So the thing, people watch that or see the band live, not just this band, but any band, and they get pulled into it like a participant.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
They're sort of along for the ride.
Exactly.
Yep. It's like watching a Formula One racer when you got the camera in his car. You're sort of along for the ride, and it's more interesting, I think, to see anyone live like that, provided it's the type of band that isn't scripted.
Right.
When it's scripted, then it's probably that the studio records are better than the live.
Frank, I just bought
inventing as you go. That's why it's better.
I just bought a 75-inch Sony TV. It's up on my wall, and I'm watching your show. I'm watching the video, and it's like, I don't have to go anywhere. I got Frank Marino in my living room, man.
Yeah, the one thing I was very proud of with this DVD is, I've always been the producer of my own album from the beginning.
Yep.
And I'm also an engineer. So
sure.
The one thing that I was really proud of was that I approached the audio of this in a very different way than I've approached the audio on all the records I've produced, not just for me, but even for others. And I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I think the audio on this DVD far surpasses the audio production on anything else I've done.
It's incredible.
In terms of the sound of the instruments, the sound of the group, the ability to hear everything, the voices, the guitar, the rhythms, the bass, the drums. It's way, way clearer, and it's much more pleasing to the ear. It's more dynamic. So I'm very happy with the way that turned out, and I think if I do any albums from here on in, I will be approaching the audio the same way I did with this DVD.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You did, you said you had about 7 hours of sound check where you were playing Beatles and fooling around with the people and stuff like that. You got to release that, man. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, everyone says I should, but I'm going to have to wait and see if I've got another year or two to put that together. Because, I still have to, there's some fixing to do on that too,
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know, maybe one day it'll come out, maybe it won't. Right now, people are talking to me about touring in September and October.
Right.
I'm sort of trying to get ready for that.
Yep.
I hope it happens. They tell me it'll happen. If they tell me I can't go, I can't go,
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I've got the tour.
I think it will too. I mean, I'm thinking, very positively, but, we'll see. I don't like to plan anything, really, because I kind of think, I don't know, maybe call me superstitious. I think when you plan things, they go wrong. Mm-hmm. So I just don't like to plan anything. I don't like to say this will be, because in my life it's always been that when I've said something like that, it turned around and bit me.
Yeah.
So, you know what? We hope for the best. They tell me it'll be happening, and I'll be there if it's happening.
Yeah, I've got the tour schedule in front of me. I don't see Florida, though.
Well, you know, it's funny that you're saying Florida, because I'm really thinking of moving to America. And, no, I'm serious.
Really?
And,
is Florida one of your choices?
Florida's one of the places I'm thinking of moving to.
I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, listen, I really do want to. I want to move to America.
Right.
And live there. I'd like to become an American. I don't know how much time that takes, and if it'll even be allowed.
Oh, I think so.
But that's something I'm seriously thinking of, very seriously, to the point where I'm talking to people about it, the right people.
That'll be great. I mean, in my little circle. My little circle here, we got Rick Derringer. He lives about 10 minutes from me. Brian Johnson lives about 15 minutes from me.
But where are you?
I'm in the Sarasota area, Sarasota and Bradenton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice area.
Yeah. So
Let me ask you something about that. Do you guys have basements?
No basements.
Yeah, see, that's a little bit of a drag for me.
Yeah, I know.
Because, I have a studio I got to build.
Right.
In the basement,
Yeah, that's the only problem.
Yeah.
Unless you built a separate house or something, like you can do that on the property, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I like Florida because I like what DeSantis is doing.
Right.
I support him. Mm-hmm. I like that he kept the place open and didn't kowtow to all the crazy people on the other side there.
Exactly.
But, I'm... what do you want me to say? I believe in freedom.
Yep.
And that's why I want to move there. I seriously believe in freedom. Really, more than anything. And I think that right now people are giving that away, and they don't have to. All they have to do is say no, but they're giving it away. They're giving away the freedom, and I'm not that kind of guy.
I think me, you, and Mark Farner. I had Mark on the show recently, and I think we're all on the same page.
And Mark is also, as far as I know, I don't know if it's still true, but I know Mark was a religious guy, Christian, and I am too.
He is.
Very much so.
Yeah.
As is Rick, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
You mentioned it.
Derringer also.
But I've been that forever, since, all the way through the 70s. It was a little tough to be that during the 70s, because everyone thought I was a John Boy Walton. But yeah, I like that kind of life. I like a state that likes that kind of thing. And I'm not ashamed of it, not ashamed to say it. So maybe Sarasota's the place to go. I don't know.
It's a great place, man. I'll help you move.
You tell me. I mean, you live there. You tell me.
I love it. We just moved. We went from a house into a resort apartment, and it feels like you're on vacation every day. I mean, we have like a 2-story gym, beautiful pool, a movie theater downstairs. I mean, we're loving life right now.
Well, where we live here, governments have way too much sway over people.
Right.
And I'm not even going to say power, because power is something you give people.
Right.
But, we're in lockdowns.
Yep.
We've got curfews.
You still got that?
Oh, it's insane.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, this place is the only place in the Western Hemisphere
that's crazy.
Putting people under curfew.
Oh, my gosh. I
there's
didn't know
no reason to do it. It's not as if millions are getting sick. They're not. The government is just exercising this authoritativeness. Like I say, Canada's a little bit of a socialist country.
Right.
And inside every socialist is a totalitarian just screaming to get out.
Yep.
And as soon as they get the chance, they try stuff like that. So this is what's made me really sour on staying here. Mm-hmm. It used to be a place a long time ago that didn't do this. But now that they're doing this and the people are actually agreeing with it and going along with it, where they really don't have to, but they think they do.
Yeah.
I think it's time to, to find some different place to go.
Yeah, Canada was...
I can't influence the world.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone ever should. You know, no one can save the world. But I can certainly vote with my feet and move to an area that I'm comfortable in, because I'm 66 years old and at best, who knows how many years I have left, and I don't want to live them under the heel of a jackboot.
Right.
Like we have to do here.
Well, you know, Florida's a red state, and, you know, I don't know which side you go on, but, you know,
I'm a red state guy.
So am I, and I'm proud of it. And I'm
all the way.
Tired of people telling 100%. Me I'm wrong.
Even more than 100%.
Yeah, me too.
You know, like, people don't know that. They think, oh my God, we thought this guy was like a hippie or something, and I was.
Yeah.
And I am.
Yeah, we go through that phase.
What people don't understand is my thoughts today haven't changed since 1970, 69.
Right.
Society's changed.
It has.
And it looks at the way I think today as being somewhat right of center.
Right.
But that's not true. It's just that they've moved so far the other way, it looks right. But everything I speak about today, all the freedom of decision and speech and all those things I believe in, that's what we fought for in 69 and 70.
Yep.
That's what it was. We weren't considered right-wing when we said those things. Right. And now if we say it, we're considered right-wing.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
It's amazing, isn't it, how things have changed?
America was based on freedom.
Yeah.
That's what makes America different than any other country in the world.
Right.
And any other system in the world. Yes, people say they're just as free in other countries, England or any of the Western democracies, but it's not true. None of those places have a constitution like America has that actually guarantees that.
Right.
They have, like Canada, a constitution that tells you have that unless the government decides to say you don't.
Right.
Under some, weird law. So, America is America because of the freedom. That is what America is.
I'm with you, brother.
It's not about the business.
I'm with you, man.
It's not about the weather. It's not about the football or any of the other things.
Yeah.
That's part of it. That's that's what you have in America. But America is America because of the freedom that's enshrined in the Constitution. That you're born with that freedom.
Yeah.
Nobody gives it to you.
And they want to change the Constitution.
No government gives it to you.
Yeah.
Governments work for you. So you don't elect people to give you things. You elect people to protect the things you have. And that's why they take that oath to protect that Constitution, but unfortunately they don't.
Yeah.
So when you get the odd guy in the odd state that does live up to that, that's where I want to live.
Yeah. That's it.
That's the guy that I believe is doing the right thing.
That's where we are right now, as long as it stays that way.
And you know what? That same state wasn't doing that 10 years ago because other people were running things.
That's true.
And I think Americans, there's a large silent majority, I think, that at one point is going to just say, you know what? Enough of this.
Yeah.
Enough of this. Living in government to take away what people have as, nobody can take a right away from you, but you can give it away.
Right.
And they know that. So they trick you into giving it away by making you afraid or telling you it's for the common good or shaming you into doing it. Then they can say, ha ha ha, we never took it away, you gave it to us. I think people should just say no.
Yeah, I agree.
Just say no thank you.
They don't want
you very much, no.
Yeah. They don't want trouble.
That's where I come down on this. And if that sounds, if people say, how could this guy, who, has the long hair and, all that looks like the part of a 60s hippie, how could he talk like that? I invite them to come and meet every 60s hippie I ever hung around with, because we all talk that way.
Right. I hate that concept that if you love rock and roll and music, you're a liberal. That's bullshit. And it's ridiculous.
Well, they basically, the liberals have appropriated us.
Right.
They've made it look that way. Remember, everything is simply perception. Right? I mean, we all know what we think.
Right.
We know what we think.
Yeah.
But then if they can have a loud voice and make people perceive that it's the other way, fine.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they're a bunch of communists.
Yeah.
And I'm not a communist. And I'll never be one.
Two guys I can't stand. I mean, I hate Bruce Springsteen. I'll never interview that guy.
I mean, forget it. These are sellouts.
He's a jerk-off.
These are people that, listen, seriously. Bruce Springsteen, great example. Are we really supposed to believe that, he's got the blue collar and goes to the 7-Eleven and
Exactly.
the 57 Chevy
Exactly.
from his mansion?
Yeah, exactly.
Really? Are we supposed to buy into that nonsense? That's total nonsense.
I cannot stand him.
That's like saying that Oprah's a person of the people.
Right.
Person of the people? I'm surprised if those people ever eat a hot dog. They think it's like eating a cat.
Springsteen's overrated anyway. I never liked his music. You know that?
No, but you know what I'm saying. It's not whether it's Bruce or it's what happens when anybody, or mostly anybody, I won't say anybody, because there are exceptions.
Right.
But when you give a lot of money and power and status and prestige to a human being, they very quickly forget whatever roots they had.
Sure.
They do.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, whether that's a bad thing or a good thing, you can argue over that. But it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens.
I agree.
It's describing what happens. If I throw a rock off a roof and I say it falls to the ground, I'm simply describing what happens to a rock when you let it go. And when you give this kind of prestige and accolades and, worship to human beings and give them a lot of money too, it's very quickly that they forget whatever roots they had if they struggled.
That's right.
And very soon, when they hear of a person who was a friend of theirs who maybe didn't do so well, or maybe he fell by the wayside and he became a junkie or he became some kind of guy like that you want to avoid, they avoid him.
Mm-hmm.
They
right.
say, tell him I'm not here.
Right. You're right.
And they cover it up by pretending that, that guy went bad. He something happened to him. He lost his mind. And,
Exactly.
But really what it is they lost their humanity.
That's the liberal mentality. You just mentioned it right there.
In other words, they will fight tooth and nail.
Yep.
Defend your right to say and do what you want as long as it agrees with them.
Exactly. 100%. 100%.
But I'm the person who believes that it's the speech that we don't want to hear that requires protection.
Sure.
It's the thoughts that we don't want to think that require protection.
Yep.
Because that is freedom. Freedom is the ability to be who you were born to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to say it without penalty.
Yep.
Not feeling like you have to subscribe to a set of beliefs and ideals. When we were hippies in the late 60s and 70s, the thing we hated most of all was conformity.
Exactly. Yeah.
We were called nonconformists.
Of course.
That's a word. You can look it up. And we were called anti-establishment.
Exactly.
You can look that up.
Yep.
That's what we were.
We
were anti-corporate.
Yep.
We were anti-establishment. We were, quote, nonconformists. That was the word.
Mm-hmm.
There was even songs about, making fun of people who all lived in boxes and all lived like ticky-tacky and they all looked just the same.
Exactly.
There's a hit song like that. I don't remember who did it.
Yep.
Okay? So that's what we were, and that's what we still are.
Mm-hmm.
But these people, the liberals on the left today, think that you have to conform to their view, and if you don't, you're a heretic.
Exactly.
Because what they've become is a cult.
Yep.
A religious cult. It's the religion for them. And if you disagree with even a word of it, then you're a heretic.
Yeah.
You don't follow,
Exactly right.
Basically, they act like good Germans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gestapo.
They like to scream that people on our type of thinking are fascists.
Yeah.
They don't even know what fascists were. They think that a guy who's a bad guy, who's a racist, or maybe he beats people up, they think that's a fascist. That's not a fascist.
Yeah.
A fascist is a corporate show.
Mm-hmm.
Fascism was where corporations run a government with the help and the power of the government. under Mussolini.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look up what fascism is, it's that.
Yeah.
And what's running the world today? Corporations.
Yeah, that's right.
They've closed every mom and pop store they can so they can buy from Amazon.
That's right.
Or go to the big box stores. Those don't get closed.
I was a mom and pop store.
So what I'm trying to say is, are we free or are we not free? If we're not, okay, tell us. Tell us.
Mm-hmm.
But don't tell us we're free and then act like we're not.
Right.
If the rules are that we're not free, then let us know.
Right.
Maybe we can check out or go to Mars or something.
I'll be the first one to
go. But as long as we're told that we're born free,
right,
and we have the right to be free, to think free, and to have free the religion we love, and everything else that we love to be free about. If you tell me that's what the world is supposed to be, I'm going to act as if it's that. And when I act as if it's that, don't turn around and try to use shame tactics and screaming and yelling and pounding their chairs to try to shame me into shutting up. Because that's what they do. Empty barrels make the most noise.
That's right. You know, God put us on this planet. There was no rules. You know, we had freedom.
Listen to me. The universe is founded on principles. Principles of motion, principles of physics. What most people don't really realize in their daily lives is that the very simple universal principles that apply to physical objects such as planets and rocks apply in other ways, in smaller ways. There's not a million different laws. There's a very small set of laws. We call them laws because it's simply that's what happens. You know? I mean, a right triangle has a mathematical equation that's absolutely true, whether you're dead or alive.
Right.
The multiplication table is objectively true. It doesn't require you to agree with it to be true. The same with the ratio of a circle. Pi. So there are objective truths in the universe, and one of those truths is that order devolves into chaos. That's, some people call it chaos theory.
Right.
It's actually the first law, the second law of thermodynamics, that eventually everything is entropy in a closed system. It devolves. It becomes more screwed up as you leave it alone. Unless you have law to keep things in order, they will devolve. You throw two things into the ocean and they separate from each other with the ripples and the waves. They don't get together, they knock apart. That's the rule of the universe. And it works with people, and it works with thinking, and it works with everything else the same way. So yes, there are rules, but the rules that there are meant to keep certain things in order so that you can have the freedoms that you have. We have rules about stop signs on the street. That's okay, because if we didn't, cars would be smashing into one another. So sometimes you need order, you need law to create order so that chaos theory doesn't abound.
Right.
But when it comes to the basic fundamental rules of who a person is, their belief systems, their innate, inherent rights, their right to breathe, to live, to think, to be, these are not things somebody gives you. These are neither government nor man gives you this. You're born with it. Some say God gives it to you because you believe in. If you believe in God, that's what you say.
Exactly.
But even if you don't believe in a God, you're born with those rights. Your right to think, your right to live, your right to breathe, your right to be who you are. That's inherent. So how can anyone take away what you already own?
Right.
Unless you give it away. So they trick you into giving it away by using fear or whatever, telling you they have a good reason, or shaming you, so that you give it to them. And then they can say, I never took it from him, he gave it to me.
Exactly.
That's what Castro did in Cuba. And then they found out he put a prison around them. That's what Stalin did.
Same thing.
That's what happened in Venezuela. Anywhere where you see this happening, the Soviet Union, just look at the history. That's always how it happens. They come, they sell you a bill of goods, tell you they're going to give you universal basic income, and they give you 3 hots and a cot, and you're going to be so happy. But what they're really doing is they're recreating the slave mentality.
Yeah, turning us into sheep.
Prisoners have 3 meals and a roof.
Yeah.
But they're not free.
Right. Exactly right.
Just because the government tells you they're going to do everything in their power to give you 3 meals and a roof, at the cost of your freedom?
Frank, we need you to...
Franklin said,
Yep.
Whoever trades freedom for security deserves neither.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. That's where I come down on this. But I know it sounds almost radically right-wing.
It's just the truth.
Go back and listen to any of the hippie leaders of the 60s.
Right.
And what I'm telling you is exactly what we were saying back then. So how could it be right-wing?
Yeah. Another 2 guys. I'm going to go ahead and spill my guts today. David Crosby and Stephen Stills. Another 2 guys I can't stand. They're so stupid when it comes to their political insights. It's ridiculous.
Well, look, a lot of these people have been shamed. They're afraid of the shame.
Yeah.
You see, I have an advantage. Nobody can cancel me. I don't get ashamed. They could tell me all they want, cancel culture, no one will buy my records. Who cares? I don't care. If no one buys my records or buys a ticket to see me or I never do another gig, I don't care.
Right.
I really don't care. So they can't... It's not like I'm saying I don't care.
Yep.
It doesn't bother me.
Yep.
I'm not saying I don't care in the way like, I'm above all of it. It just never enters my mind. I don't care.
Yeah.
So what are they going to say to me? But these other guys, they've got things to lose.
Exactly.
They've got things to lose, so they better toe the line. They better listen to the cult.
Exactly.
They're like Scientologists. They better listen to the cult.
Exactly.
The cult of wokeness. They better all listen to this. See, what I'm saying to you here, people never expect me to be saying that if they see me playing guitar and they listen to the kind of music I do.
Right.
They think I'd be doing, the David Crosby thing.
Yeah.
But I don't care. Because where it begins and ends with me is freedom. That's where it begins and ends. And by the way, just so that I could tell you, I also believe that the other side that thinks all the way they do, they have a right to think that way. They want to think that way. Sure. Knock yourself out. I would never dream of making a system that tells them they can't do that.
Right.
So I believe in that freedom.
Yep, me too.
And I believe that freedom comes from God.
We need your voice here in the United States, man. You need to move.
Look, there are other people that are saying this to me privately, but I'm telling you something. They're in rock and roll.
Yeah, I know a lot of them.
But I tell them, why do you not speak out? I'm a nobody in rock and roll today. I'm irrelevant in rock and roll. As a matter of fact, I've always been a bit irrelevant. You said it yourself, underrated.
Right.
It's not actually underrated, it's underpromoted.
Right.
And I've always been okay with that.
Yeah.
It never bothered me that I was sort of in the fringe. I like the idea of being respected by my peers, even if the large world at large didn't sell me millions of records. I don't care. I never cared. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But my friends who are in the industry, and some of them are pretty big.
Yep.
They won't talk.
They won't talk. Yeah.
And I tell them.
Yeah.
I tell them, look, are you so ashamed that you won't speak? You should be ashamed of what I'm telling you. Your voice could make a difference if you just stand up. Like that guy that finally stood up to McCarthy.
Right.
That famous guy that stood up and said, have you no shame, sir?
Yeah.
Have you no decency?
Yeah.
It took the one guy to finally stand up and tell him that, and then the world said, yeah, what about that? And it ended McCarthyism. But one of the things that's happened in America, and largely in Western democracies, is that the people who think this new way, this degenerate way, which I think it is, they've done it in the schools. They start in the universities and the schools.
Yeah, professors.
And they get people thinking that way.
Right.
And they think they're right. But believe me, once they get to an older age, they realize they've made a mistake. But
Sure.
who cares? By that point, they've got it. It's done.
Exactly right.
Well, we cannot change them, nor should we try. We should not try to change their minds.
They won't change.
Because you can't change their minds, and besides, that's what their mind wants to believe. Let them believe it. Why should we try to change their minds?
Yeah.
We shouldn't march. We shouldn't protest. We shouldn't do all that for our freedom. We already have what we have. All we have to do is say no.
Right.
We already have our freedom.
Yep.
We already have our freedom of thought. We already have our freedom of assembly. We already have our freedom of speech. We don't have to protest to get it. We just have to use it.
Exactly.
The onus is on the others to say, we're not going to let you. And let them try to pull a bunch of Americans into court and tell them they can't be free. You see how far that case goes.
Exactly. I want to mention you've been are you continuing with your theology studies? Have you learned
of course.
Have you learned anything new or different over the last year or so?
The more I learn, the less I know, but I know two things for sure.
Right.
Two things for sure. Are you ready?
Okay.
1, there is a God. 2, I'm not him.
That's what it comes down to, huh?
That's 2 things for sure.
Oh, gosh.
And so, if I need things that only a God can do,
right,
I better not look to myself to do them.
That's a good one.
If the world needs saving,
yeah,
I better not look to myself to do it. Here's what I need to save. I need to save my surroundings. You know, I need to clean my house.
Right.
I need my house to be clean. Somebody told me the king is coming to visit.
Right.
And I'm going to make a room for him. I don't want to put the guy in a dirty room. You know? Otherwise he's going to go someone else's house.
Exactly.
So that's the way I look at it. And theology, everything I've learned in my theology studies for 40 years now.
40 years, wow.
Has brought me to the simplicity of it's all just talk. When we talk about what the theology is, it addresses the issues in a kind of an analytical way, but that's not what Christianity is. Not an analytical religion. And in fact, it's not a religion.
Right.
There's religion and there's Christ. I need Christ in my life. I don't need religion in my life, and that's what everyone needs.
Yep.
So when I break it down to the most simple, there is a God and I'm not him. It's very easy to understand the kind of things it would take a God to do.
Yeah.
And therefore, why would I do them?
Right.
Or why would I think I can do them or we can do them? We can't save the world. Do you realize that if we could save the world, we'd be going against the very prophecies that said we won't save the world until he does?
Yeah, that's true.
So anybody that's actually Christian and understands Christianity, at least in a analytical sense, would understand that. But the real proper, let's say, Christians, if you want to say there's such a thing as a proper one, it's the children. And they don't read.
Yeah.
And they don't understand great things. But that's really what you need to be.
Yep, I agree.
You can be smart in your mind about smart things. But when it comes to your soul, you need to be simple.
Yep.
You need to be innocent. And if it took knowledge, if being saved took knowledge, and people say, oh, you need to know the scriptures and you need to have knowledge, if that's what it took, and we believe that, then it would mean that every child would not be saved.
Yep.
And every blind man wouldn't, and every deaf man wouldn't, and every person who's got a low IQ wouldn't.
Yeah.
We're basically condemning anybody that can't read and write. and understand what they're reading and writing. We're basically saying they're condemned, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know? They invent stuff like that. The devil invents those things so that we'll get off track.
Sure.
You know what's a great one the devil invented? It's been a common statement for years and years and years, decades, if not centuries.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard this one? The Lord helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's not in the Bible.
It's not. You're right. You're 100%
You know what the Bible actually says? The Lord helps the helpless.
Right. You're right.
Not those who help themselves.
You're 100%
There's
right.
nothing about the Lord helps those who help themselves. The Bible actually says the opposite. The Lord helps the helpless.
Yeah.
Which means He doesn't help those who help themselves.
You're right.
So, if He helps the helpless, why are people trying to make us think we need to help ourselves?
I don't know.
That's another way of making people believe they are God.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not God.
You mentioned, people thinking you're a hippie, and then they had this, badass thing, and, I'm telling you, man, there's so many legendary rockers. I mean, Alice Cooper, he's a Christian. Ozzy Osbourne is a Christian. All his music, all the Black Sabbath music, it's not about the devil, it's the opposite. And he said that.
Probably, yeah, but I will take issue in one way with myself.
Right.
Myself first. And by definition, Ozzy and Alice and whatever, okay?
Right.
I understand the logic that Alice might say,
mm-hmm.
okay? Hey, I'm playing a character.
Yeah.
What if I was playing, Pilate?
Right.
You'd allow that?
Right.
What if I was playing the Sanhedrin who crucified Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
That you'd think would be okay. So let me play, so I'm playing a bad character. I get his logic. I said the same thing myself about myself.
Right.
Okay, and I get what Ozzy's doing too.
Right.
But what we don't seem to understand when we make that quote excuse, and it is, and I'll let us off for that too. I'm not saying stop it. I'm saying, well, okay, it's one of the weaknesses we have. But what he doesn't seem to understand is that the other people don't know you're playing a character.
Yeah, I know.
The other people don't know you're not really mocking. You're not mocking God, you're mocking Satan. They don't know that. It looks like you're doing the other thing. When people put the bullshit sign over their head, which is devil horns, at your concerts,
it's not devil horns.
They mean it totally differently.
It's not devil horns. Dio even said it. It was not. It's like what did he say? It was like somebody's putting a jinx on you. That's to avoid that.
But that's what my point is.
Yeah.
My point is, we are in fact responsible for the perception that we let happen.
Exactly. Yep.
Remember the statement, all that is necessary for evil to prosper is that good men do nothing?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very true statement. I don't remember who said it. Some man, maybe Norman Vincent Peale. But if we make ourselves feel better about what we do, because we mean it a different way, and screw them if they don't get it,
mm-hmm.
the result is still wrong.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of responsibility. I will talk to anybody at any time as loudly as I can about my belief in Christ.
Sure.
I don't hide it.
Right.
I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed of it.
Of course not.
And if somebody cancels me, I'm only too happy because it means it's a good thing for me.
Yeah.
But some of the other guys, they'll talk. Alice will talk for sure. I've seen him do it. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
He's fantastic, actually. And he comes from a family of preachers.
Yes, he does.
Father, grandfather.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy.
Yep.
But we also need to understand, if I'm going to do songs like Juggernaut, I'm talking about all the bad people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the bad situations in the world.
Right.
Superpowers playing chess along a board with people as pieces. Taking human life like they're only sacrificing a pawn. These are some of the words to my song, right? They're protest songs against world-style, bad government, bad politics. And it sounds really cool. But the truth of the matter is, we're spending 5 whole minutes talking about how bad things are.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something. What kind of a genius does it take to point out that things are bad? Really?
Yeah.
So the real trick should be, here's a song, and here's the solution to a problem.
There you go. There you go.
I don't have to describe the problem.
Yep.
I can write a paragraph in a novel that describes tenements with twisting staircases and broken cement and garbage cans outside and fire hydrants on the corner. I'm describing it. Or I can say a ghetto.
Yep.
And let the reader imagine the rest.
Sure.
So if I provide a solution for many problems, I don't have to describe what problems they're for.
Right.
The reader will understand what that cures.
Right.
So we should be doing that.
Yep, I
We're
agree.
going to write songs about anything more than nothing, which is okay to write songs about nothing, to write songs about, to take the Seinfeld approach, to write songs about going down the street or playing your guitar or liking a girl in high school. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's really good, actually. It makes you less self-important. But if we're going to take the time to write songs about what we think are important issues, we really shouldn't be talking about how bad things are.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't take a genius to do that.
Exactly.
We should come up with a solution for each bad thing we think we were going to write about, and write about the solution.
Yep. I agree, man.
Now, for me, the solution is Christ.
Yep, I agree.
All my songs would be about that.
I want to get back to a little bit of...
You know who understood that?
Yeah.
Gospel singers.
Yeah.
Gospel writers. Because their lives were pretty bad.
The Christian rock thing is pretty good. You know who did a really good Christian rock album was Lou Gramm.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. I have a problem with this.
Okay.
Why do we need to hyphenate it?
Right. Yeah.
Christian rock.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, now we've hyphenated it, and people know what to stay away from. They don't like Christianity.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's true.
Well, now they're starting another exclusive club.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Don't you see the danger? Everybody that moves in one direction like a herd.
Right.
And then if I go into the Christian rock scene, me, Frank Marino.
Right.
Even though I'm completely a follower of Christ in every way, shape, or form, and I have been for 40 years, 50 years almost, they wouldn't let me in.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of some of my views.
Yeah, that's true.
They wouldn't.
Yep.
Because I don't, I'm not Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly right.
I'm not necessarily walking around saying, joy to you, brother.
Exactly right. Yep.
So there's a danger in going into any kind of hyphenated situation. I know in Canada we live in a hyphenated country. You're French Canadian, English Canadian, Chinese Canadian. Everybody's hyphenated here.
Yeah.
Everything's hyphenated. Language is hyphenated. Who you are is hyphenated. I live in that. It's horrible. So when we start to do it in music, Christian rock.
Yeah.
Well, what does that do?
Yeah.
Listen, it denigrates Christianity to call it Christian rock.
Yeah, right. The only good thing I can see about it is a lot of people...
rock.
A lot of people...
sing about those things. It doesn't have to be Christian rock.
Well, a lot of people associate, the Christian music with gospel and that type of thing, and they may think, well, this is something different. You know what I mean? It's something I can identify with more than listening to the traditional gospel type songs. That's the only reason I can see it.
And it gives them the chance to go out there. But here's the point. The Bible is called the Bible, right?
Right.
And everybody sort of knows what the Bible is, right? I mean, by now, because of the 2,000 years it's been around and 500 years in English.
Right.
Okay? So, you say the Bible. Everyone knows what you mean right away. If we said the book, they'd say what book, right?
Right.
When we say the Bible, they know what book. And Bible means book, okay?
Okay.
So it's developed this kind of personality that needs no hyphenation. Right?
Yeah.
Now, there are many sects that follow the Bible. And Protestants and Catholics Catholics and Orthodox and this and that. There's many, but they all have the Bible.
Right.
They don't have the Catholic Protestant Bible, the Baptist Bible, the this Bible. They have a Bible and they look at it differently.
Right.
So that's what the music should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean.
If you're a Christian, you're making records, you're making rock records. Your words happen to be about Christ. That's nice. That's a wonderful thing. If your words were about Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, would you be a Wizard of Oz rock?
Right.
Why is that being labeled?
Right, I got you.
What if your words were about, I don't know, the girl you met in high school? Is it the girl in high school rock?
Yeah. Well, they label everything. They label everything today.
And the words you're singing about, just, it's the truth.
Yeah.
To a Christian, Christianity isn't just a religion. It's simply the truth, like mathematics.
Yeah.
It's as mundane as learning the multiplication table.
Yeah.
It's simply true.
Yeah.
Nobody sits around all day worshiping the fact that the multiplication table is true.
Yeah.
Nobody worships the fact that the sun goes down at the end of the day.
Right.
And comes up the next day. These are facts.
Right.
That's what Christianity is.
Yep.
Christ is a fact.
Right.
It's a truth that requires no being amazed. Who's amazed at the multiplication table?
Yeah.
If you really believe it, it's just the truth.
Yep.
So that's Christianity. And when the principles of the man you believe is real become your principles, that's just the way you are.
Exactly. Yep.
And so you become Christian, which is the word Christian.
Right.
You become Christ-like. Christian. I've heard people say they play guitar in a Hendrixian fashion, or they play guitar in a Frankian fashion. This means it like Frank,
Yeah.
So Christian is the word Christian.
Frank, I want to mention
Christian when you realize that his ways are simply the way to be.
Right.
Nothing amazing about that.
I want to mention, I know your background, the Syrian, the Italian, which I found out I'm 45% Italian, and my ancestors went to Syria, which I didn't. I had no idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, so maybe we're related, man.
Well, not to sort of make a joke out of it, but we are all related.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sense, to those who believe we all originated from the same place. I happen to believe the conspiracy theory that there are certain people among us that may have sprung from a totally different kind of person 4,000 years ago.
Right.
But that's just me. But look, we're all in a sense related.
Yep.
We will all be related at some point, right? Here's the thing. People think that they have a soul. They don't have a soul. You don't have a soul. You are a soul, and you have a body.
Right.
That's the difference. And when you begin to look at it that way, you realize that the body is the thing that the soul owns. Not the body doesn't own the soul. Soul owns the body or rents it for a time. So you can't save your soul as if you're saving your house from a fire.
Right.
You are the soul.
Frank, let me ask you this.
What you're relying on is being saved, and if people were in the water after a shipwreck, and you were throwing them lifesavers, but they wouldn't reach up and take it, they wouldn't be saved by the lifesaver.
Right.
Because they didn't take it.
Frank, what do you think about reincarnation?
I think it's bullshit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the idea of reincarnation is an amalgamation of the inkling of the truth that people had. They had an inkling of what the truth was, and misinterpretation as to how it could be possible at the time they came up with those ideas.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can see why they're mistaking the we are alive and will live again in the future in heaven or hell, and with we live again over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between the thinkers of reincarnation and the Christian idea is simply this. Take Buddhism, for instance,
right.
which at the end of the day is not a religion but a philosophy.
Right.
For the perfect Buddhist that gets to nirvana, right?
Mm-hmm.
The result is nothing. Nothingness. You don't come back anymore, and it's nothingness. That's nirvana.
Right.
For the Christian, the result is everythingness.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity promises you the same endless future, but with everything thrown in.
Yeah.
Buddhism promises you the endless non-future with nothing.
Right.
To get away from everything.
Right.
But personally, people's desires are a reflection of what their soul wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've grown up, even if you grew up on an island all by yourself, with no influence from anyone, you'd still want certain things you'd call good and certain things you'd call bad. You know good and bad, you don't know how you know it, but you do. It's inklings that you have about a standard you compare your life to.
Frank, what happens when you die?
Say what?
What happens when you die?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you exactly what happens when you die, and if they tell you that, they're lying to you.
Right.
I can tell you what we hope happens, and I can tell you what we think happens by reading scripture and saying what we think it means. But what I think happens when you die is that all time is over. Everyone's at the judgment on the day you die.
Okay.
You are, yes, being raised up out of your grave for judgment, but it's happening 1 second after you died. And all the years have gone by in between your death and when it happened in a flash. In other words, you catch up to the end of time. Because one of two things is going to happen if you believe what we believe. You're either going to sleep until you're awoken at that judgment, which will seem like 1 second, just like when you go to sleep at night does.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And years will have passed. Or you will be there right away because time will mean nothing. Because time is for humans. So I think that when you die, everybody's there with you. When my sister died at 37 from cancer, I had to lean over and speak into her ear just before she passed. And I said, "It's okay, Valerie. I'll see you in about 10 seconds. So that's what I like to think it is.
So,
because I think that answers questions.
Right.
It's funny because God says two things about that. And how do you square the circle? They both have to be true if God can't lie.
Right.
So God writes that you will sleep in your grave until the dead rise at the end, which means they'll be dead the whole time, right?
Right.
Now that's got to be true if he's telling the truth. And yet he tells the thief on the cross, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." How could both be true?
Yeah.
Unless I'm right.
Yeah.
The only way that both can be true is if I'm right about time and the perception of time.
Right. Yep.
From the thief's perspective, he'll die on that cross, and he'll be raised up at the last day, but for him it'll be today.
Yeah.
Every day is today.
Right. Yeah.
Next year when it comes is today.
Yep.
So he tells them, "Today you will be with me in paradise." He doesn't say, "Don't worry, you'll sleep for a while and we'll wake you up in 2,000 years. No. So that's why I believe that.
Yeah.
So death for me is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bad thing because death is a bad thing in and of itself.
Right.
I'm not one of those that thinks, oh, death is just a part of life. It's no. Death is the purview of the devil.
Right.
It's a bad thing inherently.
Mm-hmm.
When I say it's not a bad thing, I meant it's not a bad thing to have to go through to get to the good thing, because nobody's going to get there without going through that.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's not entirely true. If there really is a judgment when God suddenly shows up in the sky, like it says, ostensibly some people will be alive when that happens. And if that's true, ostensibly half of them will be good and half of them will be bad.
Yeah.
So for the good, do you think God will say, wonderful, well done, let me kill you to bring you to me? Or simply transform them?
Right.
Truly, I think that the most fortunate people on earth are going to be those who are alive at the judgment and are on the right side of things.
Sure.
For they will be the only people who will not have to go through death.
Yeah.
Therefore, we pray the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, and we say, you know, thy kingdom come.
Yep.
We're hoping it comes that minute. Because if it comes that minute while we're forgiven and in prayer, we get to be those people who don't die. That's the way I look at it. Now, can I tell you that these are things that are supported entirely by scriptural reference? No. There are references to them that I can say, but why would I make that argument?
Sure.
You only need to make that argument to the people that insist on what we call them sola scriptura people, okay? They're people that believe unless you got it written in scripture, it can't be true. They insist on a scripture for everything, right?
Right.
And they disqualify anything for which there is no scripture.
Right, right.
Now I say to those people, if we were to subscribe to that type of thinking, then we would have to disqualify every single Christian before the Gospels were written, and before Paul's letters were written, and before it got around in the 2nd century. Because nobody had scripture between the years 35 and 90.
Right.
And yet there were very truly Christians who went to lions. They had no scripture. There was no sola scriptura. They certainly weren't relying on the Jewish scriptures, and the Christian scriptures had yet to be written. So what scripture did they have? So do we disqualify them? What they had was tradition. And so we have scripture today as a record, a history of God's dealings with men. But we also have tradition. Things that are taught from one to another. Things that are simply known. Things that are revealed by God to people that aren't necessarily exactly in scripture.
Yep.
So we don't disqualify things like that, but we say, whatever someone brings that kind of idea, we say, what fruit does it produce? And if it produces good fruit, then it is true. And if it produces bad things, then it is not true. We don't need the scripture to justify everything.
Frank, I love talking to you, man, about all this. You're amazing. It's like talking to Moses. You know, I wish everybody was as intelligent about religion, about the world.
If I could have spoken like this when I was learning,
right,
it might have made a big difference. But that was in the 70s.
Yeah,
I had many people looking at me and listening to me then, but I didn't know how to explain this.
Right.
I was just starting.
Right.
And I spent a great deal of my time alone in my dressing room because I wasn't having the parties and I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. You know, my entire career. And not for religious reasons. I just did it for other reasons.
Yeah.
And so who wanted to talk to me?
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to talk to me. And plus there was that whole Jimi Hendrix thing. They thought I was ripping off Jimi Hendrix. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's how I spent the 70s. And most of the time I wasn't involved in. And that's why I don't have many friends in the music industry. Like, I didn't make all these friends. The guys that are my friends now in the music industry became my friends after the year 2000.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them are pretty good guys. Zach's a really good guy.
Yep.
And Frank Hannon's a really good guy. You know, a lot of these guys are good people.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised when you talk to them.
Oh, I have.
And, a lot of the metal guys.
Yeah.
Almost every metal guy I know is a really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know when you know a guy's good is you can't tell him apart from the roadies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're all hanging around there and you don't know who the road crew is and who the band is. Then you know they're okay. But when you can tell them apart from the roadies and the crew, it's a little weird.
You know, I was surprised. I had, David Ellefson, Megadeth. And, when I interviewed him, I was expecting, all this, everything that you hear about Megadeth and this and that. What a nice guy. What a down-to-earth guy. Just a family man. And, you just never know.
Well, there's a lot of us like that.
Yeah.
That's why I kept saying before, we are the silent majority, but the problem is we're silent.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
That's the very problem.
Yeah.
I think that the other side invented the term silent majority so that we'd have something to call ourselves and that we'd remain that way.
I know. Frank, I tried really hard to get you on Johnny Winter's album. The second one, I think it was called Step Back.
Yeah.
And, who they decided on was Eric Clapton.
I'm so, I wished I knew that Johnny knew anything about me before he died.
Yeah.
I would have called him up.
He's a really nice guy. He's a Christian guy too.
He mentions my name on a little video clip.
I heard that.
What the hell? Johnny Winter mentioning my name?
I saw that. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
And Joe Bonamassa, he's a big...
I always find out these things at the end of the day,
Yeah. How about Bonamassa? I mean, he learned a lot from you.
But I'm talking about, for me, Johnny Winter, Bonamassa's after me.
Right.
He's great. He's fantastic, don't get me wrong. But Johnny Winter, to me, is, Hendrix, Winter, Cipollina.
Right.
The guys, Santana, the guys I looked up to.
Exactly.
Imagine Johnny Winter mention my name. It'd be like telling you Jimi Hendrix mentioned my name,
That is cool.
And I did all those gigs with Johnny and never said a word to the guy because I was too shy.
Really? That's.
Yeah, I just never said a word to the guy. Pass him in the hallway. Hello, nod your head type of thing.
Huh.
Never said a word to the guy, and then I find out that he knew who I was.
Yeah, I interviewed Johnny. He's a very nice guy. Down to earth.
Man of few words.
Yeah, man of few words. Exactly right.
But I would have loved to. Because there really were only two guys that were the main guys for me. Well, three really, and it was Hendrix, Winter, and Cipollina.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody else was, okay, I like him. Yeah, okay, I like. But they didn't. Those three were like, just let me keep playing their record type of thing.
You have to do a remake of Machine Gun because the one on YouTube, the sound is not very good, and that's one of my favorite Hendrix tunes, and you do it very, very well.
And I think if you've got me doing Machine Gun on YouTube, it's from the earliest 70s.
It is. It's not a good quality at all.
No, it's got to be like when I was about 17 years old.
Yeah, it's the quality's horrible, and I love that song, and you do it well.
Well, I tried, now when I do a Hendrix tune, like on the DVD, I do it in a way like I think, here's how Hendrix might do it now.
Right.
Like that's how I do it. And I think that's probably the best way to honor the guy, is not to do it my way. Some people want to do it their way. I don't agree with that, with appropriating, especially a genius like Hendrix, appropriating his work and saying, here's my way of doing Hendrix.
Right.
And I don't agree with that.
Right.
I believe that what you do is you take his tune and you say, here's how he might do it now. That's, in my opinion. So we've got Mozart and Beethoven and all these other great men that wrote these things, and we have orchestras do it, but we don't change them.
Well, I think...
We interpret, but we don't change what Mozart wrote down or Beethoven wrote down.
I think you do Hendrix the best. I mean, with your interpretation.
Well, it's really based on how would he do it now.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's like what an actor would do if he was playing his part in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
No actor is going to play the part of, let's say, Jesus or Jimi Hendrix or whomever, but put their own spin on it and be what the guy wasn't.
Right.
They're going to try to be what the guy was. Mm-hmm. That's why they get the Academy Award.
Exactly.
For becoming that thing, not for becoming some other guy that they wish the guy was.
Yeah.
So the idea now that they're going to take James Bond and make James Bond a woman and, change things up, stories like that. I don't know if you heard these stories, but I did. In a way, it's laughable because it's like, well, just call it something else.
Yeah,
exactly. Call it James Bond.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
This could still be a great story, but why are you taking what is and, what it isn't?
You know what I don't get? They gave you a lot of crap in the beginning for doing Hendrix, right?
It never stopped. Even till today, I get those same people, if they're of that age, they still do it.
Well, what about Stevie Ray Vaughan? He did it too, and they didn't give him the crap.
I know. And so did Robin, and so did Randy, and now everybody.
And now everybody.
So now it's, but look, what are you going to do? I was the first guy through the door.
Yep.
That's who gets the nose broken.
Yeah. It's a shame.
I was the first guy. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't say I'm going to do Jimi Hendrix and go through the door and become famous at it.
Right.
I just was playing guitar the way I thought it's supposed to be played.
Exactly.
I thought that's how you played.
Yeah.
And it brought me all that grief for all those years.
It's amazing.
I was in magazines hated me, and you go back and you look at some of the things they said and did. Yeah. It's like, they really gave me the business.
Yeah.
To the point where I stopped reading them, and to this day, I have no idea. If you ask me, what is the reaction to my DVD or my records right now online, I tell you I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't read it. I have no idea. I don't know if anyone likes it or doesn't like it.
All you got to do is go to YouTube and or the comments.
I don't do that.
The message boards.
And I don't read Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't
been in the message board for almost a year and a half.
Right.
I'm so removed at this moment. I don't know. People are telling me, oh, Frank, people love the DVD. There's not a bad comment, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, really? 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 Oh, good. I'm happy about that. And of course I'm happy about it.
All right, Frank.
Which is great.
Frank,
I don't want to go read it because I long ago taught myself just not to go read things because it was always bad.
All right.
It hurt me. It always ruined my day.
Frank, I'm going to embarrass you right now, okay?
Yeah.
Just listen for a minute. These are comments from your fans, all right?
Okay.
If this was the only song in the world to listen to, now this is about the song, my favorite song. I would still be very happy to have this one song to listen to. Okay. Let's see. Frank Marino, Something's Coming Our Way. Okay, now, Dragonfly, Criminally Ignored Greatness. I want my whole life to be how this song sounds. Marino rules. We are in the presence of greatness. For those who never smoked a joint and drove around listening to Frank on 8-track, you missed a great part of life growing up. The sounds of this man pulls out of his guitar takes me to places nobody else sends me to. Nobody. Once you hear Frank Marino, you will never forget that sound. This goes on and on. I don't see one bad comment.
Well, it is embarrassing. You can stop now. One of the things I found out about myself when I was editing this DVD,
right?
And I never knew this. Imagine, I only found this out in the last few years. So when the DVD, remember I told you I had to move some of the pictures and redo some of the picture, and I had to shorten things up because on the DVD one song goes right to the next. But at the show, there was sometimes time between these songs where we tuned up or we tuned the guitars or something, right?
Right.
So I had to pull all those blocks out and shorten up, put the songs back together closer to one another, right?
Right.
So when I did that, when you do that, you end up cutting into the crowd overlay, right? So now you've got the crowd that the song ends, the crowd starts to clap, and then because I brought the next song forward from a minute, all of a sudden the crowd is chopped off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go find the crowd that overlays that place from the real crowd. I have to go get crowd noise from the actual song and overlay it over the cut.
Yeah.
So as I went to do that, I went back to get it, and I went, oh, wait a minute, I can't use that one. I'm tuning, right? I start tuning my guitar. Oh, no, I can't do that. So I went to another one. Well, I couldn't find one where I wasn't immediately tuning.
Yeah.
And I mean immediately. Song ends, bang. People cheer, bang. I start going, and what ends up happening is when you start tuning like that, people think you're going to play, and then you're tuning loud. They stop cheering. They die down, right? Mm-hmm. So I went, wait a minute, I've got like almost nothing here to fix this with, like very few. So I says, I know what I'll do. I'll go back and look at the real live album. I've got 80 hard drives of live shows. I'll look at the endings of the same songs and get, something from there. Well, I couldn't find one where I wasn't immediately tuning my guitar.
Oh, gosh.
And I realized that I do that all the time. I don't let the crowd cheer.
Right.
I stop them. And I wondered, why do I do that?
Yeah.
And then I figured out why. When I was really small, when I was young, my mother decided that she wanted one of her sons to be able to read really young. Mm-hmm. So she made it this thing, I guess because I was the third kid. She started teaching me phonics and how to read. I could read before I was like 2 years old.
Wow.
So by 3 years old, I could read the newspapers or the Bible or anything with big words. She thought that was wonderful. So what do you think she did when friends came over?
Yeah.
Call the kid out, make him stand in the room and read these big words so they'll all clap.
Of course, I'd do the same thing.
I hated it. It was like, oh no, I've got to go into the room and do this now for all these big people. I hated it, but my mother was tough about that stuff. Come on, stand there now, read this out of the newspaper. Show them how you can do this. And I hated it. And of course, what do you think they did? They clap and go, oh, he's so cute, he's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And it embarrassed me. And I hated having to do it. I forgot all about it. Fast forward, Frank Marino's playing gigs, he plays a song, he stops, people start to cheer. What does he do? He does the only thing that'll make them shut up. He starts tuning his guitar loud.
That's crazy. You'd think you'd outgrow that by now.
You think? Now I won't do it anymore, now that I know. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never thought I was doing anything because I never thought there was a problem.
All right, well,
I only found out when I edited the DVD.
Well, I'll put you on the spot every once in a while and read some comments.
Yeah, no, it's really weird because I just don't like applause.
Yeah. I never listen. I never listen to my interviews either.
Funny. Look, I'm not saying I'm a humble guy. I'm not a humble guy.
Right.
I'm a guy like anybody else. But that particular thing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, man. Yeah. Who wants to walk in a room and everyone says, "Hey, he's here, clap for him"? Would you like that if you walked in a room?
I'd like it.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. Why not?
If you walk in a club and they put the spotlight, hey, look who's showing up, and all the people get up and clap for you walking in, that doesn't embarrass you?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Oh, my God.
I'd say thank you.
That's horribly embarrassing.
And this is coming from a guy who's performed in front of 300,000 people. I mean,
Yeah, but when they say performing, I'm not really I'm playing, and there happens to be people there. So it's not like if there's 300,000, then I did a concert for 11 people, and I still did my 3.5-hour show.
Oh, gosh.
It doesn't matter, 11 or 300,000. I don't feel different.
Right.
With a big crowd or a small crowd. I don't feel. That's why I'll do a club. I'll do a festival. I'll play at your house. I never felt different about it.
Mm-hmm.
But to be noticed and singled out, to walk in a room or whatever, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that say, yeah, they wouldn't like that.
That's
either.
funny.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I got to tell you, you know what I found out? Tommy Bolin was Syrian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I talked to his brother Johnny, and his mother was Syrian. And they grew up with all the Syrian delicacies, and like
we do.
Yeah, the mother talked Arabic in the house. I never knew that.
Like we did.
Yeah, just like we did. Yep. Tommy Bolin. Didn't know that.
Yeah, being Syrian and Italian, and like my mother's full Syrian, my father's full Sicilian Italian.
Right.
So the two cultures, there's nothing about my personal culture now that's anything but an amalgamation of those two.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, in our house, it wasn't like in some houses, when a woman marries a man and they're from two cultures, they end up being the culture of either the woman or the man.
Right.
One succumbs to the other.
Right.
Usually. In ours, it didn't. It was 50-50.
Yeah, me too.
So my mother, of course, made all the Syrian foods and all the, the whole Arabic thing.
Sure.
But she also made all the Italian stuff that my father did. And my father also was into her culture, too. So the two cultures were really intertwined in terms of the food we ate, the prayers, whatever we did, and the type of music that they would listen to.
Yep.
My father liked music that was very much like what you'd see on, Goodfellas or those mob movies.
Oh, yeah.
Sinatra and Tony Bennett and all that stuff.
Mario Alonzo.
And stuff.
Yeah.
But my mother liked that too because she and my father were jitterbug contest winners when they were young. When they
cool.
Met.
Yeah, that's
you
cool.
Go do the jitterbug and win contests at dance contests.
See, I was just like you.
That culture. And then my mother's culture was the Byzantine chanting of the Orthodox Church.
Right.
And, they had bishops in her family, and it was very religious. And, going back, like, one of the bishops of my mother's side was the tutor of the Tsar of Russia's children, the Romanovs that were killed in their basement.
Oh, yeah.
History.
Yeah.
That was their tutor. That was a bishop directly related to my grandmother.
Wow.
Like great-great-great-grandmother. So we had that culture, and we had the food and the music, which is very different from Western music.
Italian and Syrian food, oh my God.
So you put it together, and you get a really nice, I was very lucky to have that.
Yep.
Me and my brothers and sisters, we were very lucky to have grown up in that kind of culture that was so rich in everything.
Exactly.
It wasn't devoid of anything, and both of them as people, they were very open. Our house was a Grand Central Station, like everyone was always over at the house.
Right.
Kids, friends, everybody was like, the door was open to everybody. So every day was us plus another 5 people. That's what that culture is like, both sides.
Yeah.
In French, we say joie de vivre, the joy of life.
That's right. You know French, too, because you're in Canada. Yeah, Montreal. Yeah.
And all the languages, Arabic and Sicilian and Italian and the dialects and French and English. You just feel in that kind of culture that we grew up in, you just feel that anybody that doesn't have that is kind of, you feel sorry for them. Almost like, oh my God, they only get to eat roast beef or something, And so they'd come over and and to this day, my wife too, who's also half Italian, when people are here, we have the same thing in our house now. Anybody can come over. Everybody's usually
I love it.
here. And we're always making ridiculous meals, and they think that we're making them as a special thing for them coming over, but it's just what we do every day. To have cannelloni or ossobuco or yabra or kidney or any of those foods that we have every day.
Yeah.
They think, oh, you made a real spread. Thank you very much. But that's just what we eat.
My favorite movie is My Big Fat Greek Wedding, because that's exactly the feel of the family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the joie de vivre feel, And by the way, Frank Zappa was also Syrian.
That's right. Yeah. That's right, Frank Zappa. Yeah. Yeah. Frank, you have any parting words for our show today?
No, I mean, just go with God. I hope that, look, we're in a dark time. I don't want to belabor the point. The devil's having his day, but that's been written, it's to be expected. And in the end times, he will prowl around like a roaring lion because he'll know that his time is short.
Sure. Yep.
That's from the Bible, from Jesus, So all this is to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do?
Yeah.
We make our lives around us as good as we can, which is why I'm trying to move. Hopefully it works out. Go to where it's good.
Right. Positive.
Go to where it's good.
Right.
And we've got to stop dwelling on the bad.
Yep.
That's what the other side wants us to do, and I don't just mean the other side politically, I mean the devil.
Yep.
We've got to stop dwelling on the bad. We've got to look at the good where we can get it and be thankful for it.
I agree.
That's the key.
Yep. Positivity.
They don't want us to do that.
Yep.
So just say no.
Mm-hmm.
When people tell you what you can't do and you know that it's your right to do, just
say no.
Don't say screw you or say, oh no thank you.
Right.
No thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to do what I'm doing. Thank you very much.
It's the best way. Why start a fight?
When the cops want to give people, they're giving $6,000 tickets to people who are out after curfew.
Oh, jeez. That's crazy.
But they know that none of those will ever get to court.
That's nuts.
Because they'd never win in court. But they're giving them.
Yep.
So I tell people, if you're out there and they're giving you your $6,000 ticket, say, thank you very much, but you give me another one.
Yeah, don't pay it. Rip it up.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see it in court. No problem, because they'll never get there. This is all a big ploy.
I know. Frank, if you need...
I just say people should just be free.
Yep.
Insist on being free. And if it's your thing that you want to say, no, I'm going to hide in my house, by all means, go ahead.
Right.
Not telling you not to. By all means, go ahead. More power to you. Good on you.
Frank, if you need any help moving to Florida, let me know, man.
Yeah, well, if I land there, if I end up there, we'll see.
If you need help scoping out areas or things like that, I'll send you some information, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, I hope I haven't said things that are going to make people mad at you.
No, I don't think so. I'm like you. I pay for these shows, and it's all me. I'm doing this for the love of music. Nobody can fire me. So I'm like you. I don't care. And I enjoy what I'm doing, and that's the main thing.
Well, God bless everyone.
You too, Frank. My best to the family.
I just hope everything goes right for everyone.
Me too.
I personally am fighting with a little bit of a health thing right now.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully it'll go away.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Well,
but
take care of yourself.
We'll see what happens.
All right, man. Take care of yourself, and God bless you, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
All right, Ray.
All right, Frank.
Ciao.
Ciao, baby. Purchase Frank Marino live at the Agora Theater, the DVD. It is awesome. You can buy that at www.mahoganyrush.com. The epic 6-hour live performance is now available and presented in an elegant box set, which includes both the Blu-ray and DVD formats in each box. You'll receive 4 region-free discs, 1 Blu-ray, 1080 HD disc in its own separate case, and a 3 DVD 480 SD set in its own separate case. A 180-page book that delivers an in-depth chronicle of his journey from his early beginnings right up to the performance, as well as being filled with pictures that span Frank Marino's career. The last 20 chapters are written by Frank Marino in his own words and invite the reader to share intimate details about Frank's experiences, the making of this project, his personal feelings, and his outlook on his life and career. You have a front row seat to witness the awe-inspiring man himself in the highest quality picture and sound as never seen before, while he delivers an incredible 58 tracks, many of which were rarely, if ever, played live. For more information about Frank Marino, visit www.mahoganyrush.com. That's the official website. He's also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/official Frank Marino. Very special thanks to the dynamic duo of Doug and Don Newsom of BBS Radio TV for making the magic happen for each and every broadcast of Interviewing the Legends. If you have a comment or a suggestion for the show, you can always contact me at interviewingthelegends@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Interviewing the Legends with Ray Shasho, for the very latest interviews right into your inbox. Ladies and gentlemen, it's real news. And, of course, my new book, which is finally out, called The Rockstar Chronicles. It's Series 1 out of possibly 4. And it chronicles truths, confessions, and wisdom from the music legends that set us all free. You can order yours today on the collector's edition hardcover or ebook at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. It features over 45 intimate conversations with some of the greatest rock legends the world will ever know. Literary Titan gave it 5 stars. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. God bless you. Peace and love, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Interviewing the Legends. Brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call 941-877-1552 or visit us at publicityworksagency.com, specializing in author and music artist publicity plans. We shine when we make you shine. Tune in to Interviewing the Legends every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on BBS Radio, Station 1.